And welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining. As you can see, we are already having fun. This is Pavan's Perspective Podcast. I am Angel Elliott. I am joined, of course, by Pavan Agarwal. And I might say this every week, but we have a really uniquely fun and interesting podcast for you guys this week. Pavan, would you like to do the honors?
Yes, I'm so excited. Steve Stanulis is joining us today. He's amazing. What a story, what a life. And if you all have had a rough day or a rough week and you want inspiration, you want motivation, you want some coaching, you want to know how to grow a business, you want to know how to get successful in life, Steve's amazing. I want you all to just stop what you're doing, turn off everything else, ignore everybody else, and for 2 seconds, focus on Steve, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and get ready to add comments and ask questions in the comments, and let's get going. So Steve, you know what? I'm not going to give anything away. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and from where you started and where you are today? It's just so incredible.
Sure. Well, first of all, it was a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I mean, again, I had a very Forrest Gumpian type existence. In a sense where I've always just kind of been at the right place at the right time. From getting into Chippendales as an 18-year-old kid, to the NYPD, to being DiCaprio's personal security, to being security to the stars in the late 90s. Again, to being a filmmaker, an actor, a producer, private investor, a private investigator company. Yeah, it's been a quite a wild ride, and each one of those unique jobs bring a lot of unique stories. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to share my stories with you.
Awesome. So let's start the clock from the beginning. So how did you end up in the NYPD, and how long did you serve?
Well, I think what we should start with is how did I end up at Chippendales. I think that should be. I think that should be the.
Okay. Let's start there.
All kind of unravels that way. So again, when I was my first day of college, I was always into working out, and I just happened to sit next to this guy, and we kind of hit it off. It was a sociology class, and he's like, "I got to go to work tonight," and I'm like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "You're not going to believe this. I work at Chippendales." He goes, "Why? Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he's like, "All right, listen, come to the show and see if you like it." So I'm like, "Great." So I go to the show, and I'm watching the guys dance, and basically they're doing their routine. You would think they were rock stars, and then basically they go into the audience and basically hump any girl, and then they would turn around and say thank you and give them money. So I'm like, where is this real? So I got into dancing. I went under the name Steve Savage, which was my dance name. I was actually 18. I was actually too young to be doing it because you had to be 21 because we were in a club that served alcohol. But the funny thing is I got really into it. You're 18, you get caught up with girls, money, and everything was fast. But I came from a family of police officers, so my dad was a police officer, my brother's a cop, my uncle's a cop. And if you're not familiar with Staten Island is a very middle class. You're either a police officer, a fireman, sanitation, or a gangster. One of those. And it wasn't like live your dream. It's like, look, you want to be an actor, great. But you're going to be a cop first. You want to be a doctor, great. You're going to be a cop first. So anyhow, the point is, I got called by the police and obviously went into the police academy, but I didn't want to stop dancing. So basically what happened was, I got lucky because I worked during the day. So I would get off at 3:30 and I would still be able to dance at night. Now, again, the funny thing is, back then there was no social media, right? So, I could be anywhere and it wouldn't matter because as a police officer, you're not able to, you're not supposed to dance, obviously. So again, there's a reason why I'm getting into this whole shtick. So what happens is one day I'm dancing and this gentleman comes into the club and he goes, I'd love to pay you to dance for some girls I have at my penthouse. So I'm like, okay. So I totally ignore him as I would. I go downstairs at the end of the show, and one of the dancers comes down, and he goes, "That guy's still upstairs. He wants you." So I'm like, okay. So I go upstairs, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm a cop." And he's like, "No, no, no, really, I got these girls." So I go back to his house, the penthouse, and he's like, the other room they were in there, and I go, there's these two girls. I end up dancing for them. He gives me like $2,000. I was like 20 years old, 21 years old. And to me, that was like getting $1 million. So he's like, by the way, would you be interested in working for Leo? He lives with me. I'm his money manager. And this is 1999. So I'm like, yeah, call me. And again, never gave it a second thought. So the next day I get a call. Leo wants to meet you. So I go, okay, what time? So he's like, can you get there at 10? I'm like, I can't because I'm doing a show. Would you mind if I get there like at 10:30? So he's like, okay, but don't leave Leo waiting. So I end up showing up at 11. And there's a reason why I'm getting to all this. So I get there and there's Leo. Again, this is right after Titanic. He's the biggest, obviously one of the bigger movie stars in the world. I'm a stripper cop. I have no aspirations, obviously, to be in that type of business. And we have nothing in common. But I had hurt my knee. So he's like, oh my God, I hurt my knee back, filming Basketball Diaries. You mind if I see your scar? So I'm like, yeah, as long as you don't mind the G-string I'm wearing. And I pull my pants down and I'm sitting there in a purple thong. And everybody's dying. Leo's laughing, everybody. And that kind of broke the ice. So the funny thing is, getting back to where we were talking about in the beginning, stopping there is, if I was like, oh my God, I got to meet Leo, I got the opportunity of a lifetime, it probably wouldn't have happened. If I didn't show up late, if I didn't pull my pants down, if I didn't engage the gentleman in sociology class, if all these things kind of led down a certain path. Again, very Forrest Gumpian. So in 1999, this guy who introduced us was considered the money manager to the stars. So if you were A-list, he managed your money. So the fact that I was a Leo, anybody that was big in 1999 wanted me to work with them. So, Leo, Tobey Maguire, Cameron Diaz, Michael Stipe. And, I would do whatever they did. So I ended up going to a party, meeting this gentleman, Dylan Sellers. And I was a lot bigger back then. And he goes, "You play football?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I played in high school." He's like, "You'd be great. I'm doing this movie called The Replacements with Keanu Reeves." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Again, I didn't know anything about act or any of this stuff. And the next week I'm in Baltimore, and I'm with Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman, and I have a couple of lines in the film. But again, everything kind of happened like, in a weird way, because if I had any aspirations at that point, but that, a lot of stuff happens from there. But to that point, everything was great. Everything was just like falling in my lap. So again, it was just
You went on mute.
all right, my phone rang. I was always happy to be at the right place at the right time at that particular, up until that point. So again, a lot of that was just, I always thought like, you know, sometimes you just got to say screw it, and kind of things kind of go your way. So from that point, everything was, and then obviously I get a major fork in the road, and everything starts going the other way, which leads me to come into becoming myself and becoming the entrepreneur and all that stuff. But that, so I thought that was going to be my life, and just I was going to make movies and just do all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I hit a big path in the road. Yeah. So I don't know if you wanted to jump in and ask me something, but yeah, that's how I kind of got into all that in the beginning.
Yeah. So Leo hired you to be a bodyguard, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason why they hired me was because I wasn't like 6'5", like I didn't look like a big security guy, but the fact that I was a police officer and I had a gun and shield, to the public, it looked like I was just one of the guys. But I was able. If somebody came up to us and bothered us, I was able to show my gun and not my gun, but my shield, and say, "Can you just give us some space?" And actually, people respected that more than they would have if I was some giant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So again, so there's so that all happens. So I'm like, this is great. Yeah, and then I get to do a film called Gangs of New York, where I get to work with Daniel Day-Lewis as the butcher, with him all the time, and he ends up winning an Oscar. And I'm like, this is how is this happening? I'm a police officer. I'm hanging out with Michael Ovitz, Boone Pickens, and 8 hours later, I'm running through the projects chasing drug dealers. It was like the most mind-boggling. I couldn't even tell the other cops what was going on, because it was, even saying it was just so fucking mind-boggling, that half of the stuff I kept to myself, because I was with the Hollywood's elite, or the elite of the elite. And like, again, 8 hours later, I was running through the projects trying to chase somebody down because they robbed someone. So it was an amazing dynamic of being here and here. So so everything to that point was great. And I said, let me go to acting school and let me start doing all this stuff, because God forbid I get put in a situation I couldn't handle. I'll be prepared. So basically, this is pre cell phones. This is 2000. I go on a cruise, and obviously I had no access to social media. And as I'm coming home, I get an Entertainment Weekly book, and I'm looking through the articles, and the gentleman that introduced me to everybody, the money manager to the stars, gets arrested for embezzling funds, and he was involved with another person who was a cop, but it wasn't me. So right away, everybody thought I was involved. So all that access, like this, gone. So now I'm like, oh my God. Now I got the acting bug. I got the creative bug. I was addicted to going out, the limelight, paparazzi, all this stuff. And now I'm just back to being an actor, like a normal guy that has to audition for stuff. And yeah. And again, that's it. Just like as quick as it went like this, it came as quick as it went. And at that point, it was like one of the biggest stories in, scandals. And again, obviously later on, it was proven it wasn't me. But yeah, that was a crazy turning point. So that all happened from 99 basically to 2001, and then everything went away. But I believe that was a blessing, because that's when I said, wait a minute, now I gotta start being, creative. So I got injured. I got hurt in 9/11. I hurt my knee. I got out with a pension, where I'm both my knees. So now, I'm 27. I got my pension. I'm retired from the NYPD. What am I going to do? So, a lot of actors at that time waited for their phones to ring, and that was the norm. You wait for your agent to call, and if they didn't, you sat by like a dope. So I said, wait a minute, why would I do that? Let me create my own stuff. I'll produce, I'll direct, I'll raise some funds. I'll do a couple of short films. I'll be able to, um, showcase myself that I'm more than just a gangster or a police officer. And at that point, like 2000, that was unheard of to do because there was no way you were supposed to be a producer, an actor, and a director all on the same type of film. Because it was looked at as a vanity piece that, you're just promoting yourself. So the first 2 or 3 films, I didn't even put my name in as a producer or and today, I mean, everybody does that today, so again, so we started doing all that. We started growing. We started doing, we had this niche of doing certain films for under a certain amount of money. And then we created, Stanulis Films, and, everything kind of took off from there. So it was actually a blessing that whole thing was taken away from me because it was almost a crutch. And it allowed me to, learn how to raise money and all these different, different ways of creating ways to do projects.
I'm sure at that time it didn't feel like a blessing.
No, I was crying for a long fucking time when that happened. Yes. To be with Hollywood's elite and all of a sudden looked at as like I'm part of a scandal was pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty shitty time.
What's your advice to people who just got, kicked in the stomach and are struggling? How do you get past? What did you do to get past that?
Well, like I said, nobody's going to feel bad for you, right? So the thing is, you can sit and sulk. No, there's no person out there that I know that's going to comes a hero and says, "Hey, poor you. You were just with Hollywood's elite. You get paid tons of money to do movies, and now you poor you." So again, that doesn't just apply to somebody like myself. For anybody who's doing anything, what I would simply just say is, the worst thing to do is do nothing. Even if you set, again, I don't want to sound Tony Robbins or very cliche, but the thing is, it works. I'm still a guy that does this every day. And this is, you're talking about old school, right? I every day write a list of things I got to get done and highlight them. And, as things go, and again, stuff like that is silly, but it works. It's very old school. I mean, you could do it, you could do it any which way you want. But I would always say, start with small goals, attainable goals. Nothing like, hey, tomorrow I want to raise $50 million. No. How about let's raise 2? And what are my steps that are going to get me there? And again, there was never words spoken so true that if there's not obstacles, then what you're going for is not hard enough. You know what I mean? So, I always had a saying: if you dream out loud. And I always say, don't talk shit, create shit. And again, if you got kicked in the stomach, great. It happens. It happens to everybody. In fact, the most successful people, as I'm sure have failed a lot more times than they've succeeded. But the difference between them and the difference between you or anybody else that succeeded is, I'm sure you've had ideas and ventures and everything that you said I want to do, and it just didn't work out. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff I've done that, and and again, there's so many naysayers, and the biggest thing that I hear from people that are afraid to take steps is they're more worried about people, telling them they can't do it, or if they fail, that they're more worried about what people are going to say if they fail than if they succeed. And, I think we all think egotistically, we're in people's heads a lot more than we are. I think people, could give a shit less of what you and I are doing. And if they give us 5 seconds of headspace in a day is a lot. So, I would just say, every single day, create a list of stuff to do and stay focused and tunnel vision.
I agree with you 100%. I do that also every single day. Now I did upgrade. I used to write on a piece of paper just like the way you showed, but now I upgraded and I use the little note feature on my cell phone.
Well, that would be probably what everybody else should do too, including myself. But yes, but exactly. But whether you do that or you do this primitive thing I do, whatever works for you as an individual is something you should definitely do. And like I said, I had a situation again later in life where again I had kids, I had children. Actually, obviously the whole film business type of thing is great, but you get paid money, you do the film, you get it distributed, then you got to wait months, you get the money back. I mean, it's the way it works. So I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I had twins with this. So I had 3 infants under 2 and under. So I get an opportunity after 18, not about, what is it? It was about 15 years. I get a call, would you want to work with Kanye West? And I was like, sure, yeah. The first thing I was told was, you're probably not going to last, but if he's looking for retired police officers. He's doing a fashion show for Fashion Week in New York City. So I'm like, sure. So, I got there. I met Kim, Kanye. I introduced myself. I was assigned originally to Kim Kardashian, and she came in. I introduced myself as anybody would. Hey, I'm Steve. I'll be your security. You have any questions? I'm here. And that ticked him off to the point where he had one of his assistants come up to me and say, "Never talk to Kim again." Oh, okay. Well, no sweat. I was then reassigned to Kanye. Great. And him and I clashed all the time. All the time. A lot of crazy stories with Kanye and I. But at the end of the tour with him, he requested me back, which a lot of people didn't know. And again, I ended up doing the Met Gala, and again, this whole thing came up where I got fired for hitting on Kim, and when I say it was a global story, it was global. I'm just interviews with China, Italy, everywhere, the UK, everything. So that dominated my Google for a while. Obviously you're dealing, you're getting sued for $30 million by Kim and Kanye. Now, that every major publication is on my Google, right? So now I'm trying to raise money as a film producer. And somebody came to you and said, "Hey, check this guy, Steve Stanulis out. He did a lot of great things. You would have Googled me. You say this guy's not a producer. He's not. He's a fucking bodyguard." So that killed me. So that ruined me in the security business. Ever getting a security gig again for a little while. In the entertainment business, because if you didn't know me, you would think I'm a bodyguard. So again, I had to reinvent myself again, and I created a private investigating business for myself that dealt with cheating spouses, insurance fraud, stuff like that. And again, Month one, I was saying, all I want is 10 jobs, God, give me 10 jobs. And then obviously he got to give me 30 jobs, God. And then, now it's like, please let me make 10 grand this month. Now, in 2 years, it's grown exponentially. If I had 10 jobs in a month, I'd laugh now. But again, it's always about reinventing, always, taking a negative and making it a positive. And because I had all those incidents with Kim and Kanye, and when Kim got robbed in Paris and I wasn't there, I was the go-to guy on what I would have done differently. So took that, used it to my advantage, put it on the website, and now I have all these people like, oh my God, this guy, they could work with anybody. They work with this guy. So again, it's always taking a negative, and I know I'm all over telling stories, but there's always an end to what I'm trying to come to. I took the negative, I took this nonsense, and I spun it around, and it became a negative, a positive. I could have been like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not doing this. Let me go figure something. Let me go get a 9 to 5. And again, the moral of all these stories are, life throws you curves. It sucks sometimes. It's easy to get beat down, but it's easy. It's harder to get up and do what you got to do. But when you get to where you want to go and you achieve what you want to achieve, there's no better feeling. I mean, there's no better feeling. And again, anybody that's listening out there, who's been kicked, who's going through a bad time, again, keep things in perspective, keep things small, and when you hit that small goal, continue to go. And that's the best thing I could say. When I was dancing, when I retired as a cop, instead of working for somebody and getting paid $100 a night, we created a brand called Savage Men, and I ran everything. It's always just looking at how could I take this and build on it, make it better. You never have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to change job gaps, and that's really what it is.
So I know the audience is just like dying to hear a Kanye West story. What can you share?
Yeah, no, I can. Again, I'll tell you. Again, it's funny because I always gave him the ultimatums. The first day I'm working with him, I had to meet him at the music studio in New York City, and I met him, at the elevator. I was waiting for him, and he's staring at me. I'm staring at him, and he's like, "Aren't you going to press the elevator button?" And I'm like, "It's my first day. I have no idea where you're going." So he goes on this big tirade. You mean you didn't call ahead to find out what floor I'm going to go to? Blah, 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 And I'm like, dude, wait a minute. I said, wait, we could do this 3 ways, right? I said, A, you could tell me, what button to press. Now I'll know. And, it'll never happen again. 2, you could press the button. And now I'll see which button you pressed. And then I'll never have to ask again. Or 3, you can yell at me for the next hour, tell me how important your time is, but we're never going to leave this area. And, he got the message and he pressed the button and I saw, and that's how our relationship started. And it never got better from there. But I think because all the times I kind of went back and forth with him in the beginning, I think he respected that. But yeah, it just got so ridiculous with certain things that, and this was before everybody realized he was bipolar, and this was pre that. So, everything I was saying, people were like, nah, that's not Kanye. And later on, I was kind of, and here's another great story. And again, to show you how, okay, you want to throw me, again, could I curse?
We try to keep this a family show. But
I
I think we've crossed that line a few times already in this show.
I didn't know that. I apologize. So again, here's another situation for everybody listening, where you get thrown lemons and you make lemonade. So up until recently, I did a film. When I say did, I produced a film that had won Venice and was up for a Spirit Award. And no matter what I was doing, every interview, everything always ended with, "Tell us what happened with Kanye." So similar to what you just asked. And I'd always be like, I would always try to avoid it. I'd always make believe it didn't happen. And it always would come to that. And I would end up saying something that was a great soundbite, and then TMZ would take, and it would go viral. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a documentary called 15 Days with Kanye. And it's going to address everything from A to Z. So now, if you have a question for me, we have a documentary. Watch the documentary and you can see everything. And the documentary, won a big film festival, all these different things. But again, I kind of embraced the whole, I said, instead of going against it, make believe it's not going to happen. Because every time something happens, I get thrown in. There was another story there was a TikTok influencer who was a hairdresser. And what happened was, his story was, he created a fake DM between him and I, which looked great, by the way. It looked like it was really him and I. That said, basically, I was going to pick him up and he was going to meet Kanye and I for a threesome. Right? So, again, I kind of played it. I'm like, whatever, how silly. The thing actually caught a lot of traction. So, obviously, I had to have my attorney, make you do a cease and desist, and and the kid had to do a public apology. But like I said, all of these things always dominated my Google, and probably still do a lot of this stuff. But like I said, I kept getting thrown curves and lemons, and I just said, you know what, bring it on. How do I make this beneficial? And that's what I did. And again, goes back to anybody that's listening out there. Whatever you do for a living, whatever you're trying to create, whatever company you're starting to build, whatever you're trying to raise money for, obviously things are going to happen. Not everybody's going to run and love your ideas, but it only takes one, right? So, just keep going. You know what I mean? And that's really the what I continually, when people ask me about this crazy journey, what would I tell them to do? And whether they're an actor, an entrepreneur, people I've just met at NEBA, which is the National Investment Bank Association conferences, that are familiar with my story, and they take me to the side to get like a Kardashian story or any type of story. That's always what they say. Oh, how the hell did you do all this? Or how did you get involved with Boone Pickens? I just tell them that's what you have to do. There'll be times that you'll have great days, and you'll have time. I'm sure you can attest to this. There'll be days that are not great. Yeah. But again, if we had great days every day, then there'd be no reason. We'd all life would just be nondescript. So every day is a new adventure.
Yeah. If you have great days every day, that means you're not pushing hard enough. I like the way you said that.
That's even better. That's even a better saying. That's right. I'm just saying it's nondescript, and you wouldn't appreciate the good days. But yes, you're not pushing hard enough. If every day is great, that is correct.
Yeah. So that film is called 15 Days with Kanye?
Yes. It was a documentary.
Where can we find it?
I'm going to send it to you guys because, again, it won the New York International Film Festival.
For the audience, where do they go to watch? Is it on Amazon?
I know, you know what? I never put it out only because I didn't want to go through all the legalities because I would have had so much red tape. but it got so much press. If you Google it,
No.
and again, there are distribution companies that actually called me today, basically, they want to release the movie. I just don't know again if I want to, put myself go down that road again. You know what I mean? To be quite honest, but yes, it goes from A to Z, and the whole shtick was I was only with him for 15 days, and all that stuff happened in 15 days. So yeah, but yes, I'll send you a snippet. You guys are gonna get a kick out of it.
Yeah. And of all the movies you've made, which one's your favorite that you feel most proud about?
Actually, the film that just was nominated for a Spirit Award the other day, actually 2 days ago, Sunday, I'm sorry, 3 days ago, was called Monica. Had Patricia Clarkson, Emily Browning, and make a long story short, it was just basically Patricia Clarkson's character is sick. She's in hospice, basically. She's estranged from her son, and the family's having issues taking care of her. And they hire this girl, Monica, to take care of her. And Monica kind of gets her out of a funk for a little while. And before she, the end of the story, you find out Monica is her son. He's now transgender. So I was like, how relevant of a story is that? So when I had the opportunity to be a part of that and with who was in it, and the storyline and where we are today, society, I just thought the synergy again. I had nothing to do with the project, and then it just fell in my lap last minute. And again, it just kind of fell my way. But I would say that one right now, because that was something that was out of my wheelhouse of something that I would normally do.
Yeah, I just looked up the film on Google. It's got really great ratings and everything. So Monica, Monica 2022.
Yes.
And Tracy Lissette was Monica, and Patricia Clarkson as Eugenia. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah. You got some really good cast here. Congratulations.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. And like I said, it's, again, it was something that I had no intention of doing. And it kind of just fell right in my lap. And, again, just very Forrest Gumpian the way it happened.
Yeah.
Almost sort of like we're talking today and we met today. It was the whole conversation, how we met. It was nothing had to do with this. And this just came up about some podcasts I did. And, I have somebody, you might, and that's how we met. And again, it was, totally random.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Things happen that seem totally random from a distance, or at the moment they seem totally random. But when you look back at the distance and you think that, hey, you know what, this is actually God's design.
Oh, yes.
And there's always everything that you do, and if you let yourself, God's hand is always part of it somehow. Right. And it's like you and I are talking today, and you're in the film industry and so forth, and I couldn't be farther away from the film industry. I'm in tech and finance. What does that do to the film industry? And then it just so happens I'm at CES, and then I get basically invited to Cannes Film Festival by an agent of the French government saying, hey, we want you there because there's so much tech there. We want your opinion on the tech. I'm like, how is this happening? Like film roads, and like I'm crossing into the movie and film industry and it's just like, I'm not asking for it. I'm not pushing for it. It just happens. Right. And mostly what I feel, my experience is that if you are honest with yourself, and if you're honest with the people around you, you're not I like what you said at the beginning. You're not pushing. That you didn't push Leo. You didn't push, whoever, right? And you were just honest about who you were, and that attracts, things will come to you.
Absolutely. And again, I don't want to seem like again, I use Tony Robbins all the time, but every single morning, and again, obviously I'm not ashamed of it at all. I do meditation. I do 10 minutes of gratitude. 10 minutes of visualizing, and 10 minutes of this YouTube video called Start Your Day with God. And, sometimes, I try to wake up earlier before my kids get up for school. And, sometimes they happen to wake up and they see daddy on the couch with these, with his eyes closed and his hands in a certain, and, now, it used to be funny because they're 11 and 9, 2 9-year-olds, and they're seeing daddy on the couch in a weird position. But now they accept, but if I'm doing it and they wake up early, they don't even ask me. They used to ask me questions in the middle of what I'm doing. Now it's just part of the routine. But again, you talk about, you talk to a lot of successful people. I'm a real firm believer in gratitude. Again, you wake up every day and you open your eyes and you feel good. That you already won it. You already won a day. Everything else, I always tell, people, even my kids, I mean, they don't get it, but I always tell them, unless you have a terminal illness, there's nothing you can't fix, or there's nothing you can't get through. Even if you have a terminal, I mean, to stay positive, because there's people I know that have terminal and they could turn it around. Depending on who they listen to and their frame of mind, but visualizing, there's times where, I could say, I visualize stuff and, down to, what the room looked like. I just recently purchased a home in a town in New Jersey where I always wanted to live. And if I told you 8 months ago, hey, I'm visualizing this house, you would thought I was nuts. And I wish I would have wrote it down in a date, because if I showed you what my house looked like to what I was writing down, it's almost, I was there. I was here. So again, some people think it's, whatever, but again, don't knock it. And again, if you're in that bad space or that dark place, or you're down or you're depressed or whatever, try it. There's nothing like emptying your mind for 10 minutes and just being, and it works. And and believe me, I'm one of those guys, New York guy, that stereotypical, get out of, no way, that I would have used to make fun of somebody that did that. And you know what? There's not a day that goes by that I won't do it. And if I don't do it, I make sure at some point during the day, I find 10, 20 minutes to go somewhere and do it, even if it's in my car. So again, these are things that I've just picked up over the years, but I really think are all helpful tools. And it might not work for everyone, but if you take the visualizing or the goals or writing stuff down, whatever works for you, we're all wired differently. So, some things might work for you, some things that you do, I might not, but if you take from a little different stuff, you read books, self-help books, there's people you admire, respect, listen to what they do. Grant Cardone, love Grant Cardone. Obviously Arnold inspires me. His story. Obviously Tony Robbins. It goes on and on. And I've taken things from people that and I've applied them in my life. And again, if you're listening out there, read. I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, we could just sit here all day and talk about a list of things that you could do to help yourself. And none of them are wrong.
Can agree with you more, especially on the visualization, meditation, and just finding that time for yourself every day.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, they'll go to the gym and the gym becomes the meditation.
Absolutely.
And you get in that zone while you're at the gym. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the way Steve does it. You don't have to sit on the couch in a funny position. You just have
Exactly.
you have to find your own stride and your own way to do it.
Right.
So last question, you said you had 3 kids, twins and twins and one more, right?
Yeah, now they are now today my oldest is 11 and my twins are 9.
And all
So
girls and boys?
no, it's 2 girls and a boy.
And so
So
the identical twins?
no, boy, girl.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny because believe it or not, the silliest question I've gotten asked on more than one occasion, is someone say, "Oh wow, you have twins?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah." And they go, "What do you have?" And I go, "A girl and a boy." Are they identical? And I'm like, but you know how many times I've been asked that question? But probably more than 10 times. But yeah, I've been blessed. I got both. I got the best of both ends. Um, as a guy, you always want a son. But my daughter happened to be firstborn, and as soon as she came out, that was it. She's daddy's girl. And boys, I love my son and everything, but it's amazing. It's one of the most amazing things is being a dad.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm thankfully my brain cells were working, and I asked the question whether they're identical before. You said,
It's not uncommon, believe it or not, and it's funny, but not uncommon. You know, so it's definitely a funny question. But I've gotten those questions on more than one occasion. You know,
But when they were little bald babies, were they identical? How's that?
but like that way, yeah, right. Especially when they first come out. Again, they looked a lot alike. Well, they definitely, you wouldn't think they were twins at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so they're definitely 2 different personalities, 2 totally different looks. But again, awesome. Definitely awesome.
Right. Angel, do you have any questions for Steve?
Well, I think the audience might be mad at me next week if I don't. We got some Kanye stories. If I don't ask for a Leo story, I might get some hate in the comments. So, yeah.
Well, the thing about, again, the great thing about the difference between both of them, obviously the times were different. You're talking 1999 and you're talking about 2016. So, 1999, he was a kid, I'm going to send you a funny picture of both of us because back then there was no cell phone cameras. So if you had a picture with somebody, you really knew them, right? So there's a great picture of him and I on the internet, like 4 in the morning, of us hanging out. And I was like 28, he was like 26. But this is when he was like, going out every night. This is, we had this whole group of guys that were like Lucas Haas, Toby McGuire, Q-Tip. We'd go out every single night. And the best thing about him is obviously if you weren't in a circle, it was tough to get in. We're in the circle, anything for you. And going out on a daily, every single night, I was one of them. I was embraced as one of the group. I wasn't security. I was part of and the difference between him and Kanye is, I was almost like less than, which I never got because if I'm security and God forbid something happens to you, who's the first person you're going to come and look for to help you, right? So the point is, Leo is, everybody be happy to know, and Leo is, he's unique because he's loved by, females, young and old, as we know, and males. A lot of guys love Leo. You know what I mean? So he's every bit of that guy. That he's not a disappointment in that way. There's certain people that I've met that are not as not what you would hope they would be. He's everything and more. And the biggest difference with him, as opposed to the situation I had with Kanye, was that. And again, Kanye, I have to say, is probably the most creative person I've ever met. He's a genius. He's a nonstop workaholic and a total entrepreneur. But Leo is, as big as he is in status, is as nice of a guy as he is. That's without getting into any crazy stories with him. But I can definitely let everyone know with that is he's every bit of what you would hope he'd be as a guy.
So you weren't surprised that he let Rose go on the door at the end of Titanic and sacrificed himself?
I think that's like the biggest, right? That's like the biggest thing. Why didn't you just move over? You know what I mean? For both of us.
Did you get the chance to ask him that?
I think that's his number one most asked question in his career. Why didn't I either come up with a smaller piece of wood for her to lay on, or why didn't you just say, "Hey, Rose, scooch, let me jump on there with you"? So I think that's probably his number one out of any movie he's ever done. I would say that's his number one most asked question and joked about question, without a doubt. I think I'd still say that if I watched the movie. But yeah, that was a crazy. I don't know why nobody picked that up, but yes.
All right, Steve, what a great conversation. So much fun. So much fun.
And hopefully I wasn't all over the map. I was just trying to give you a quick tidbits of, of stuff to kind of lead to other stuff. So hopefully I wasn't like, too scattered for you, but I just wanted
not at all. Not at all. It was like he started from the beginning to the end. It's like the whole thing. So it was perfect. and so many great lessons. So many great lessons. And I do like everyone who's, I think everyone, forget whether you made it, not made it, lost it. Everyone's had setbacks in life, big ones.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. So, and just, stay away from the why me trap, because whenever you think you got it bad, you look around, there's always somebody who's got it worse.
Without a doubt. And, that and naysayers, and those are the two. And it's, again, be with positive people. That's the last thing I would add that I forgot to add is I believe you are with the 5 people you hang out with the most. And there's something to that as well. So yeah, grind, don't be afraid to fail, stay away from naysayers. And there's always somebody that does have it worse than you do. So, yep. So if you dream out loud.
I love that saying. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to steal that from you, Steve. Is that okay?
Great, take it. It's yours. And don't ask me what elevator. Never ask me what elevator button to push. You'll be pushing my buttons.
Yeah, and next time we're in the elevator, I expect you to read my mind, Steve. All right?
Yeah, you expect me to call ahead, tell me where you are beforehand. No, listen, it was absolutely a pleasure to meet with you guys. I appreciate the time. And like I said, I look forward to spreading the word for you guys, and I absolutely will do. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where this goes.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you so much. Cheers.
Likewise.
Everyone for tuning in. Thanks for joining, Steve. Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.
Have a great one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.